We're coming to you live from our Farmer-herdsmen studios here in Accra on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144, around the world at myjoyonline.com and on your digital TV because we are free to air. The details now. The nation is estimated to lose millions of cedis through long hours of vehicular traffic. Workers are said to be less productive as a result. The roads leading to the central region town of Kaswa remain one of the most traffic-prone in the country. As part of our Joy News agenda, my colleague Joseph Akable has been engaging drivers and experts on the cost of spending hours to complete a journey that should take not more than 35 minutes. Here's his report.
Between the hours of 9 and 10 a.m., the roads leading to Kaswa are simply free of vehicular congestion. At the main bus terminal at Kwame interchange, drivers simply cannot find passengers for the journey to commence.
By this time, the
situation is different in the evening when workers close and early morning when they are heading to work. Isaac Bondi has been plying the road for 12 years.
Kaswa is not far. It should take about 35 minutes. But with the traffic, you need a minimum of an hour and a half. We spend a lot on fuel.
Transport analyst Dr. Ernest Ajiman believes rail can be an option.
So people are already desirous to have a change in the inefficient status quo that we have from the trotro-dominated public transit to a mass transit, provided it's going to not crawl in traffic like President Dayelulu is doing. But I guess rail will not have any issue with traffic. So then I think that's something that people will be willing to switch and use.
The central regional town of Kaswa is home to more than 370,000 people. It is approximately 30.9 kilometers by road from the capital of Accra, and depending on the traffic situation, it can be a journey completed in 56 minutes or at good times 35 minutes. During peak traffic hours, one can expect a minimum of 2 hours travel time. Harry Enim Harrison is a driver who knows the roads leading to Kaswa quite well. I joined him for a trip to Kaswa. It is 5:40 p.m. Our journey commences from the taxi terminal under the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Harry explains why he moved to live at Kaswa.
I have my project there, and I wanted to get closer to it and monitor it, and probably finish it in time. So I moved there. I rented an apartment there, close to my project or my site, so that I will be able to, go there frequently and then do something. That's why I moved there.
At the time you were moving, were you aware of the traffic situation?
I wasn't aware because I normally don't go there in the evenings. I go there maybe. That is when I was in Accra. When I was staying in Accra, I go to sites on weekends. That is those times when there are it's traffic free. That is when I go there. I don't go there in the evenings like this. So I didn't know there was this huge traffic on Kaswa routes.
And eventually, when you found out that there was traffic, were you shocked?
Yes, I was really shocked because as a driver, I've been going through traffic situations, but not as huge as that of Kaswa. So I was just, but what can I do? There's nothing I can do because definitely I will live there, so I have to bear with it.
How does the traffic affect your work?
It really affects it negatively. You see, the traffic is both in and out. What I mean by that is, when you are coming from Kaswa to Accra, there is traffic. When you close and you are going back to Kaswa, but that one is worse. It's worse. So it affects me negatively in terms of the time to get there. As a commercial driver, I need to. Why I come to Accra is because I work at Accra, and I need to come to Accra to work.
Joseph Akable with that report. And about 40 tenants have been rendered homeless after fire gutted a compound house at Angoga, a suburb of Kumasi. The fire ravaged 13 rooms in addition to 3 shops over the weekend. Victims had to spend the night in an uncompleted building at the mercy of the weather. They're hoping for an intervention from the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO. Prince Apia visited the area and reports.
Vida Anaba sits worriedly in front of one of the remaining rooms of the affected house. Her room is among 13 other rooms fire raised down over the weekend. I heard them shouting fire had gutted the house, so I covered myself with cloth and came out. I could not pick anything else. She sells noodles at Aroga Junction, and today her life seemed to have halted. Confusion, frustration and sadness is written all over her face as she contemplates how to get back on her feet. And there was nowhere to sleep, so I slept in this uncompleted building. Vida and other affected victims pitched camp in this uncompleted building to spend the night. That uncompleted building is now their safe haven because they were unable to pick up any of their belongings. They'll have to use some mats to spread on the floor with their children and spend the night. Our ID cards and money have all been burnt. We do not have anything else left as we stand here. We slept outside till this morning. She said 15 rooms, including 3 shops, were all destroyed. Roland Adama is the owner of one of the businesses affected by the fire.
I did not pick anything here. I had 2 air conditions, 3 industrial fridges, LED TV, 60 crates of drinks, and cash amounting to about 10,000 Ghana cedis. I found some this morning, but cannot be used.
So he had to take the intervention of both the Menchia and KNUST fire stations to douse the fire. Landlady of the house, who refused to grant an interview, is dejected. She and other tenants are furious. The fire could have been stopped earlier if the fire personnel were well equipped. Hobson Keku is assemblyman for the Aloga electoral area.
Yesterday I noticed one thing. When the fire service people came, their hose were not functioning. So almost all the water was just on the floor. They went. The second car came also. When they shut off water, we have about 7 fire hydrants around this one. None of them was functioning. So they have to rush back to I don't know where they went. About 1 hour, 30 minutes, when they came here, everything was burned down. So my appeal to the government is to equip the fire service so that they will be able to function as we want them to do.
Today, tenants and other residents are still cleaning up the place. The assemblyman and his unit committee members are collating names of the affected persons meant for the National Disaster Management Organization for support.
None of them even pick a pin. So I'm making a general appeal to anybody who would like to help them, get them some items so that they will be able to live for some time. The NADMO people came here this morning and they say they will be coming tomorrow. Since none of them will be hanging around, so I have to pick their names so that tomorrow morning I'll call them, then we'll meet the NADMO people.
Meanwhile, the fire service has started investigating the cause of the fire. Prince Apia reporting.
Management of the Electricity Company of Ghana has opened talks with staff members over their demand for the MD of the company, Kwame Ejiman-Bedu, to be sacked. Now, they accuse him of being incompetent, stressing he lacks the vision to lead the company. The workers, made up of junior and senior staff, have this morning announced a sit-down strike in all ECG offices across the country. This follows the failure of the ECG board to meet an April 23 ultimatum given by the staff, for the removal of Mr. Ajiman Bedu.
The junior and senior staff members of the Electricity Company of Ghana, well, across the country, all offices of ECG across the country have their staff observing this particular position and expressing same. Well, essentially what we've been gathering from some of the workers who have been speaking to us unofficially is that what they want the managing director, Mr. Kwame Agyemang-Budu, out of office. Well, they level a number of allegations against him, essentially making reference to his inability to galvanize support within the rank and file of the company and make it profitable. They accuse him of running a one-man show, and essentially for them that smacks of inefficiency and ineffectiveness at the high office of managing director of this all-important company. And so the notice went out, and it was to the effect that at 8 a.m. today, all staff members, that's junior and senior staff members of the Electricity Company of Ghana across the country, are laying down their tools in a sit-down strike, just protesting the failure of the board of the company to act on a petition that they had sent to them earlier in the years. That particular petition actually gave the board of the company up until 23rd April 2021. That was last Friday. Also today, for failing to have acted on that petition, the workers are laying down their tools to sort of armstrong the board to, if not immediately act on it, at least give indications of its intention to act on the petition that they brought to it. Well, I've been here for about an hour or so, and I've observed that everything seems to be going on smoothly. This particular building, office complex, is shared between the Volta River Authority and then the Electricity Company of Ghana, so Electro Volta House. Incidentally, though, the Volta River Authority is celebrating its 60th anniversary, and so even though in the same office complex you're having ECG workers protesting the continuous stay of their managing director in office, the VRA section is making merry. Added from some of the workers is that there's a high-level meeting that is currently going on.
Manuel Cranting there, you're watching Joy News Today with me, Benis Abubeidulan. So still to come, statesman and former president of Anglo Gold Ashanti, Sam Jonah, bemoans what he describes as the prevailing culture of silence as he criticizes the media for failing to hold executive and others accountable. We'll hear from a media expert who says Mr. Jonah's comments genuinely reflect existing conditions in the country.
Under the first term of President Akufo-Addo, what we saw was completely different from what existed before in terms of the repression, in terms of the attempts to mute people's voices.
Thanks for staying here on News Today. The Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Ibrahima, says Sam Jonah's reflections genuinely reflect existing conditions in the country. His comment comes on the back of a speech delivered by the astute businessman at a Rotary Club function titled Down the Up Escalator, Reflections on Ghana's Future by a Senior Citizen. Mr. Sam Jonah at that program bemoaned what he calls the prevailing culture of silence, which he says is being enforced not by legal and military power, but through convenience, parochialism, hypocrisy, and lack of conviction. According to Suleiman Ibrahima, these developments, as described by Sam Jonah, particularly those concerning the media in the country, have been slowly building up over the years since the advent of the Fourth Republic.
I wouldn't say that these developments have just been in existence over the last 4 years of the Akufo-Addo administration. I think it had been something that we had been building up, tolerating, and almost nurturing and watering and grooming. Except that I should say, in the last 4 years of the President Akufo-Addo administration, in terms of the acts of intolerance, attempts to silence people, I think it has grown quite more. This is the beginning of the second term of this government led by President Akufo-Addo. But certainly, under the first term of President Akufo-Addo, what we saw was completely different from what existed before, in terms of the repression, in terms of the attempts to mute people's voices, in terms of the intimidation and the coward tactics in order to sort of possibly get people not to express views that will be strongly opposed to the interests and positions of government. So absolutely, the last 4 years has been quite a difference in terms of attempts to silence people's voices. Well, I think that I have seen this morning a response attributed to Honorable Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah. That tells me that at least people in the corridors of power have read it or have heard it and are beginning to react. And my expectation is that this should cause them to begin to reflect whether they really and truly would want to serve the interests of our nation or they are empowered to serve their personal interests.
Right.
Those of us in the media, I think we are discussing what was said, the questions that were raised about where is our fourth estate role in holding governments accountable? How are we responding to the constitutional provision that says that we shall at all times uphold the principles and the objectives of the Constitution and hold those in power accountable to the people at all times. Going forward, if we continue to have elderly people, respected people like Sir Sam Jonah has spoken and speaks bluntly and speaks to the issues as they are, I believe that is what will help our country.
Away from that, President Akufo-Addo is now personally leading international diplomatic efforts to bring in more vaccines to protect Ghanaians against COVID-19. That's according to Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu, who has admitted India's decision to suspend AstraZeneca exports is significantly impacting the country's vaccination plan. He was speaking to Joy News on the sidelines of an event to mark the 11th Annual African Vaccination Week in Accra. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, joins us via Zoom with more. So, Fred, what's the plan to deal with our vaccine supply challenges? All right, Fred, if you can hear me, what's the plan, specific plan to deal with our vaccine supply challenges?
Can you repeat your question, Bernice?
I'm asking you to share the specific plan to deal with our vaccine supply challenges, Fred.
Well, indeed, the health minister has been talking about that today. He says India's decision.
It's unfortunate our lines are failing us this afternoon, but that's head of our health desk, Fred Smith, who is just going to share with us details of our plan to deal with the vaccine supply challenges. If you've been following COVID news around the world, you know by now that India is really struggling to deal with the second wave and has over the weekend had to supply even oxygen to people at home and is even running out of oxygen and hospital space. And so the country has decided to suspend its distribution of the AstraZeneca vaccine across the world. And we understand that that is having an impact on us, even here in Ghana. Well, Fred joins us, I beg your pardon, via phone now. Fred, so just share with us briefly the specific plan to deal with our vaccine supply challenge. Well,
the health minister has been talking about that, and he explains that because India is in a very dire situation, they've decided to cut supplies to all countries completely, and therefore Ghana is struggling to get access to the AstraZeneca vaccines. And if you realize, India is the producer of AstraZeneca vaccines, and so that makes it very difficult for us. AstraZeneca is currently the easiest for us because of the temperatures for storage. So as we speak, the health minister says the president himself is leading some diplomatic efforts, speaking to his colleagues in other countries to see if there are vaccines which are not in use at the moment, so we could bring them in for our immediate use. That's what is taking place at the moment. But he explains that those who took the first jab and are waiting their second doses will get them between May and June. He was hopeful that we'll be able to bring in some vaccines by then. But he's also promising that within this week, we should expect some 300,000 vaccines from Russia. This will be the Sputnik vaccines. And for those who took the first jab of AstraZeneca, they cannot take this. It will be a completely new set of persons who will be taking this.
And briefly, before you go, Fred, we spotted a letter today talking about the increase in COVID-19 cases recorded at our airports from Frontiers Health Services. Has that come up at that program, and what's the response?
Well, that has not come up at all at this event. The event is mainly focused on vaccinations against all diseases that can be prevented using vaccines. And as the participants underscored, Ghana has made significant progress in that area. But the warning is, if we slack, then we will be in a very difficult situation. So COVID and the other diseases that can be prevented, such as polio, measles, and the rest, must have intensified vaccination to ensure that we keep the momentum going on progress so far.
We'll end here. That's head of our health desk, Fred Smith there. Now, a renowned pharmaceutical manufacturing and marketing firm, Bliss GVS, has donated malaria medication worth over 120,000 cedis to the Kolebu and Ridge hospitals as the world marks International Malaria Day. The company is keen on contributing its quota to the eradication of malaria from the country. Judith Awotri-Tando has more in this report.
In 2018, over 200 million cases of malaria were recorded across the globe. Although the world is slowly drawing closer to the eradication of malaria, Ghana remains one of the countries with the highest malaria cases in Africa. The Kolebu Teaching Hospital and the Ridge Hospital are both referral centers in Ghana. Malaria is one of the major cases recorded every day in these hospitals. Adam Mohammed is head of the administration at the Ridge Hospital.
Yeah, malaria is recorded at the OPD visit as almost on daily basis. You know, it's one of the top 10 causes of OPD attendance in the hospital. If it is among the top 10 causes of OPD, and we see over 110,000 OPD attendance in a year, the number is significant.
Unfortunately, some patients who do not own NHIS cards are also unable to afford malaria drugs, making it difficult for them to treat themselves. Delayed treatment sometimes results in death. This is what the Bliss GVS Pharma Limited is hoping to curb. As the world marks International Malaria Day, the company is donating malaria drugs worth 124,000 Ghana cedis to these hospitals, intended to be distributed for free. Jeffrey Ampofu Frimpong speaks for the organization.
In 2021, malaria continues to be a burden and life-threatening disease in Africa. So as a company, we want to completely eradicate malaria. We want a malaria-free continent. So we are running this campaign called Act for Africa. That is artemisinin-based combination therapy for Africa against malaria. So as part of that, we are partnering with all the important stakeholders to champion this activity and fight against malaria.
The hospitals have expressed their gratitude and promised that the drugs will be used for the intended purposes. Munir Al-Hassan is Director of Administration at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
We are really very happy to receive the donation. We do have cases at the Child Health Department especially, and then the maternity where we have the pregnant people, and then pregnancy-related issue. We do have malaria cases there, and definitely what has been donated will go in support of this.
Bliss JVS hopes that soon malaria will be fully eliminated from the country. Judith Awochitando, Joy News.
Act for Africa, malaria-free continent.
Still on Joy News today, Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore and board member of the National Peace Council, Nana Dr. SKB Asante, says it's worrying the country is still faced with the challenge of settling chieftaincy disputes. In an interview with Aisha Ibrahim, the astute lawyer stressed the involvement of the High Court in chieftaincy matters has sometimes complicated issues over the years.
There's one complication which has to be identified. The Courts Act has said that the High Court has no jurisdiction to settle chieftaincy disputes.
Yes.
But the High Court has a jurisdiction to exercise supervisory authority through prerogative writs over inferior adjudicating bodies, including judicial committees. However, if you look at the practice, you see that something which should proceed from the Traditional Council to the Regional House of Chiefs, the National House of Chiefs, to the National House of Chiefs has been complicated because there has been a reference to a High Court, and the High Court then intervenes and tries to settle it in a way which is not appropriate, and then there's an appeal.
Even though it doesn't have jurisdiction.
Yes, they don't have jurisdiction. They do it by way of supervisory jurisdiction. And that can complicate. It can go through a High Court all the way to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, and then it still has to come through the judicial committee system. So these things have to be looked at. So that you see that certain chieftaincy disputes are protracted because of the involvement of the High Court.
The board member of the National Peace Council has also reiterated calls for executive powers to be reduced. The paramount chief of the Asante Asokore, who was chairman of the committee of experts that formulated the proposal for the 1992 constitution, hints the original document presented by the committee did not recommend this many powers for the executive. He's worried the two major political parties have not shown any political will to address the situation.
The Constitution came into force in 1993. We were involved. I was the chairman of the committee of experts. We made proposals. In our proposals, we made a number of suggestions which could have imposed some limitations on presidential powers.
Okay.
When it went to the assembly, Constituent Assembly, these checks and balances were removed.
Wow.
Oh yes. I still maintain, and many people will say, that there's excessive presidential powers. It's true. But the interesting thing is that none of the political parties has made this a major concern or a major element of their manifestos. I'm yet to see any political party that says that when we come to power, we will reduce presidential powers. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
So
there's no political will.
Yes, it has political will.
Still coming in business here on Joy News today, Communications Minister hints Indian telecoms operator Bharti Airtel could return to the Ghanaian market.
Airtel has mentioned to us that they are still looking at this market, and there's a possibility that they may come back at some later stage.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Indian telecommunications operator Bharti Airtel may be returning to Ghana in future. Managers of the company have disclosed to government. According to Minister for Communications and Digitalization, Owusu Kufu, the COVID-19 pandemic has compelled many telecom operators to pull out from the Africa sub-region, including Ghana. Now, Madam Owusu Kufu tells Joy Business, Airtel will be considering the Ghanaian market at a later date for a possible return.
We all assume that this sector is the only sector which has benefited from the pandemic because a lot of our work has gone virtual. And so we think because a lot of people are using online platforms, the companies in this sector are all doing very well. That is not the case universally. Some are struggling. And some of the parent companies of these network operators in this country have also decided, not just in this country, that they are pulling out of certain markets for their own investment reasons. And that's why we have also suffered this fate. Tigo is out of Africa. Airtel is also consolidating its acquisitions around the world. They've decided that Ghana must be one of the countries in which they no longer operate. And that is why we are in this situation. But Airtel has mentioned to us that they are still looking at this market, and there's a possibility that they may come back at some later stage. But what we have is the situation at hand, and the government is determined to protect the jobs and livelihoods of those who are dependent on this company. This sector is a very, very critical sector for government, and we will do whatever we can to encourage increased competition, diversity, growth, and vibrancy in this sector. And this step that has been taken is in furtherance of that desire.
In other news, the Ghana Standards Authority says it would ensure mandatory certification for building materials are strictly enforced so consumers get value for money. As President Akufo-Addo has also charged the Ministry of Works and Housing to conduct comprehensive assessment on all public buildings and structures. Director General of the authority, Alex Dodu, tells Joy Business his outfit will do its part to ensure standards are met.
The Ghana Standards Authority and all industry players, but importantly, the number one gentleman in the country, the President, are concerned that our built environment could be better. And indeed, just last week, the President charged a committee to ensure that all buildings are audited for their structural integrity. As Standards Authority, a key part of our 2020 year of enforcement is to ensure that we enforce in the area of the built environment. We have introduced mandatory certification for concrete, for cement, and for all related products. As we keep saying, you would be hearing a lot of penalties for those who are recalcitrant. Currently, what we have been doing is engaging and educating, but that cannot go on beyond the next few weeks. Now we need to crack the whip because at the end of the day, consumers have a right to expect world-class quality goods. We want Ghana to be a place where people buy with confidence, that whatever Ghana cedi you spend goes a long way. And the only way is for us to ensure that you are not deceived when you buy, because if what you are buying do not meet the requisite standards, you have been deceived and you are not getting value for money. In an economy which is modernizing, it's essential that there is certainty in trade, that businessmen and women can plan that the goods and services they are procuring will meet their expectations and will go a long way to achieve the purposes for which they have been procured.
Our top stories on our website this afternoon. Ghana's economy ranks 73rd in the world and 141st in per capita income. You can read more on that and other business stories on myjoyonline.com/business. Up next is sports.
But now let's do some club football news, and it has to do with Kumasi Asante Ikotoko. They continue to have issues with their former coach, Maxwell Konedu. Last week, the Player Status Committee of the Ghana Football Association ruled in favor of Maxwell Konedu, asking the Porcupine Warriors to pay him $41,000. Out of that $41,000, $36,000 was the residual value of the remainder of his contract agreement he had with the Porcupine Warriors when he signed for them on December 19, 2019. The club say they took the decision to sack him because they felt that he was not the man to lead them to reach the height they are seeking to get to. However, the Status Committee of the Ghana Football Association believed that their decision to sack Maxwell was hasty, premature, and no just cause. And they ruled that they should pay Maxwell Konadu $41,000. The club say the appeals committee should reverse the decision because the ruling was arrived at based on errors of facts presented to them. And they want the appeals committee of the Ghana Football Association to reverse the decision. They also called that they had asked the Player Status Committee to surcharge Maxwell Konadu 55,300 Ghana cedis for using the official car after they had sacked him. And they want the decision of the appeals committee to ensure that Maxwell pays these monies to them. In 2023, Ghana will be hosting the All-Africa Games. President of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Ben Mensah, says that it serves as an opportunity for us to boost the fortunes of sport in the country.
Government is expected to put up a 50,000 capacity stadium to serve as a venue for the opening and closing ceremonies of the games. Work is yet to commence on the land situated at Boteman, but Benun Mensah, president of the Ghana Olympic Committee, is optimistic the commitment from government will make the organization of the games a success.
There's a lot of goodwill, especially on the side of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And that, for me, is about 100% of the battle won. Once you get that commitment and that dedication from the leadership, anything you want to do is possible. What is left is the people that he's charged with the responsibility to go out there and make sure that they're sealing the deal. The stadium hasn't taken over. I know the drawings are ready, and it's supposed to be in a place called Boteman. If we're able to get that stadium, that Olympic stadium finished or done, it will change our sports completely, because then we're looking at having all the facilities in there.
25 sporting disciplines will be competed for at the Games. Ben believes the fortune of Ghana sports will be enhanced should the country get its infrastructure and preparations right for the Games.
2023, if we start well, if we are very dedicated to it, will probably be the turning point, will be what will turn Ghana sports for the better. You know, when you organize big sporting events, it gives the nation the chance to all of a sudden provide facilities which we don't have, you know, to invest a little bit in their athletes, which we badly need. So far, it's been good. The only worry that I have is that we haven't been able to put our pickers on the ground and get the construction of our Olympic Stadium going.
The local organizing committee is engaging all stakeholders to ensure the country hosts a competition to remember.
That was a report there by my colleague Mubarak Haruna, and that is your sports for Joy News today with me, Muftar Nabila Ablai. However, there's more sports stories on my joyonline.com/sports. As you can see right behind me, reverse ruling in favor of Maxwell Konadu. Player Status Committee's award is based on errors of facts, Kotoko tells GFA Appeals Committee. You have more stories to read. Thanks very much for your company.
Away from that, actress Rosamond Alade Brown, also known as Akua Pimpolo, has expressed regrets about her actions that led her to being sentenced to 90 days in jail. Speaking for the first time since she was granted bail, she declared her intentions to embark on a Stop Nudity campaign to advise others against posting nude pictures and related materials online.
I didn't know what I did could take me to prison, so I didn't expect it at all.
The only problem is I went wrong by taking a nude picture with my son. For the past 3 years I've been good. Look at how far I've got it is from my management team.
So let's go.
Since 30th June that this issue came, 30th June was my son's birthday, and I posted that picture with him. Okay. Since then, one will say me posting nudity on my page for 1 year now. Me pa mo cho mo fa me boni chem kakra.
Now, before I leave, there was near clash between herdsmen and residents of Atakrum in the Jasikan district of the Oti region early Sunday, as one of the residents was attacked on his way home from the farm with his wife. The woman who escaped the attack raised alarm in the community, and that led to the community mobilizing and arresting 4 of the herdsmen, who were later handed over to the Jasikan District Police Command. The victim is currently receiving treatment at the Jasikan Government Hospital, having suffered club wounds. Peter Sinu was in the community and has more in the following report.
Residents at Atakrum in the Jasikan district of the Oti region say the activities of cattle herdsmen on their land and crops are affecting their livelihood. The food crop selling community say they are now a buying community instead. They lament cassava, which is one of their staple food items, is a scarce commodity as the cattle do not allow their crops to grow. Food crops to sell, especially cassava. As for the groundnuts, no matter what, you get a little for sales. They destroyed my cassava last year, and that is what they have started again. Because of this, I have to buy cassava dough before I prepare food. The animals are really disturbing us. If you complain and you are alone in the bush, especially women, then they put their dagger on you. That is what they are doing to us. Just last Saturday, they uprooted all my groundnuts. As for the cassava, they finished it. For the past 3 years, I have never uprooted any proper cassava. Anytime the animals come to destroy it. For the past 3 years, the animals have been destroying my crops. Even what to eat is a challenge. We are farmers, but we buy food before we eat. They destroy our crops without even compensation. Once the food crops are ready for harvesting, they come and destroy everything. According to them, the herdsmen and their animals for the past half-decade have had devastating effects on their livelihood despite their resistance. It was one of these resistance that saw the attack on a farmer who is believed to be in his 40s Sunday morning, who is currently on a hospital bed. Joy News can confirm the destructive activities on a number of farms in the area as remnants of massive cattle activities are obvious.
That'll be all for this edition of News Today with me, Bernice Abubedulansa. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com, including Kisia Jabing nominated to head office of the Special Prosecutor. We're also live on Facebook and Twitter. We are Joy News on TV. Up next is the Marketplace Tuesday.